The July was hovering over the land in Los Angeles. The crimson sun was setting. Two slender, expansively dressed men stepped into the parking lot in front of the most famous restaurant in town. "Well, Woody, that's funny. You're a real Casanova." The handsome brunette laughed at the boss's adventures, revealing flawless with teeth. "Is there any lady in your neighborhood that you haven't been in a bed with?" "Yes, Manson, there is, and you can name one," Woody laughed. "I dub it. I bet I don't know one." "Oh, yeah. And if you think about it, yes, you had them all." Mason Jones was cackling. "You told me so yourself." He tossed his jacket over his shoulder with a careless gesture. "And there's one. And my list of Don Juanas is incomplete without her. She's hot. I've been waiting here for a long time. Very appetizing. I think I can get her into bed." "Come on, tell me, who's she?" "You know her." "Do I?" "Yeah, I've been married a long time. I stopped being interested in women for one night." "Soon you will know who she is," Woody Grease assured his deputy with an ironic smile. A week later, Mason was having lunch at the cafe near his office, where all his employees usually gathered. He overheard a conversation between his secretary Anna and the head of one of his departments. Jones knew that those people were having an affair, and that's why they are very frank with each other. It seems that the chief simply hates Jones, although he is careful to pretend that he is pleasing to him. I bet he loves him. I think he loves his wife. Well, if she's not stupid, she will choose the boss. He's the real macho, full of money," suggested Anna. Her companion shook his head. "No, he once said, she's a tough nut to crack. She's a tough lady, and she'll screw Woody over. But Mason's so soft and so loyal to Green that I'm afraid he will get his horns in a hurry." "You're right. He's afraid to say a word against him." Now that was a challenge. Mason stood up from the table. "Well, I will show them what I can do. I will bet you're wrong, but I think you are wrong," he interjected into the couple's conversation. The man recoiled from Anna in surprise, rolling his eyes at the boss who had suddenly emerged from around the corner. "Oh, come on, Mr. Jones. Forgive us for gossiping. We didn't know you were around." "I don't want to know anything, whether you were gossiping or telling the truth. I will make you a bet, and it will be $3,000 if I send the chief to the cleaners." "You will lose, and I already have, judging by your speculation. But let's draw our conclusions a little later." The girl nodded her head faithfully, waving her long eyelashes and fixing her hair on the back of her head. Her beau blushed thickly and smiled forcefully at his superior. He apparently had nothing to lose, and so he declared, "Sure, why not? When?" Mason thought for a moment. "Let's say tomorrow. Is it okay?" "More than okay." The next day, Anna and her suitor came, at the appointed time, to the office of the bank owner. There was a conversation going on, clearly in an elevated tone. In front of their eyes, a disheveled Mason Jones flew out of the room and shouted sharply in the direction of the chief, "Fuck you!" He was walking down the long hallway at a satisfied smile on his face. An hour later, at lunch, Green and Jones were laughing. "Did you take the poor man gambling money?" "Yes, of course I did. It's gonna be worth it. Thanks for playing along." Spreading gossip. Yes. What exactly is he saying? What did he say? That you and Melanie are lovers? Yeah? What if I told you they are? The bank owner smirked. "Are you crazy? Are you talking about my wife?" The smile slips off Joan's face. Her, you think I'll miss out on a trophy like that? You're crazy, Woody. I thought we were on good terms. You always treated my wife with respect. Well, you're the one who thinks we're close. You are wrong, and you overestimate your role in my life. I've never had friends in the subordinates, and I'm not going to make friends. The blonde glared at his acquaintance with icy blue eyes. John seemed confused. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, cast a contemptuous gaze at him, stood up from the table and walked away. Green laughed loudly in his back. Woody Green had his eye on Joan's wife for a long time, ever since he invited her to his house for a weekend picnic. He had been trying to seduce her for a long time, and finally, she said yes. The man remembered counting the minutes until the first date. He spent several hours in the restaurant and going quite tipsy, but the drunken stupefaction had vanished from his mind when heels Collect and Melanie confidently approached the table. He glanced down at her from bottom to top. Her expensive, high-heeled patent shoes made her slender looks look even longer. Her rounded hips waved slightly, her waist emphasized by the tight black midi dress. The deep necklace emphasized her high rounded breasts. The man's gaze traveled higher. He had never seen a face more attractive. She had wide cheekbones, a perfect petite nose, wide-set green eyes, and luscious lips that glistened under the colorless lipstick. The woman's golden curls spilled over her shoulders. Woody was afraid to admit to himself that even he, such an experienced walker of woman, had his heart racing at the sight of this beauty. He stared at the menu, pretending to study it intently, to hide his excitement that gripped him. Melanie approached the table. "Well, here I am," she said in a low, velvety voice. Green looked at her, and trying to keep the intensive in his hands, in a gruff manner suggested, "Have a seat. Order." He carelessly pushed the menu across the smooth table in the woman's direction. She also carelessly, with a flick of her manicured fingers with exquisite manicure, sanded back. Taking a glass of champagne, Melanie rose abruptly from the table. "So, let's consider it time for a sweetie." She turned around and, swaying her hips smoothly, moved toward the exit. Woody had no choice but to admit that his strategic seduction initiative had failed miserably. It was Melanie who was playing him. He was surprised. She had given up so quickly. After all, Mason loved his wife madly, and she loved him too. It was obvious to the naked eye, but there was no time to think. The businessman liked to act and act fast. They made love in a luxurious hotel room, on a bed with a snow-white canopy, with the breeze blowing through it. Woody had expected anything but such marvelous intimacy. He expected resistance, rejection, contempt. What he got was tenderness, passion, and sensitivity. She surprised him with her careless, subtle, and passionate. After both of them reached ecstasy several times, Green realized that he had never had such a woman. Today his feelings were so vivid and overwhelming that the man was at a complete loss. He wanted to see himself as a winner by putting her to bed, but he found himself in the camp of the defeated. Now it was beyond him to part with her. The golden-haired goddess only smiled ironically. "You were not bad," she said. Then she got out of bed and began to dress. "Will I see you again?" Green asked concernedly. "Why?" "Well, it was something fierce and marvelous tonight," the man explained admiringly. Melanie laughed. came over to him and sat down next to him on a bed. Do you realize, Woody, that you're about to lose the image of a businessman forever? She turned her beautiful face to him, and he drowned in her emerald eyes. So that's it, then? He spread his hands. Do you want to continue? She smiled. Yes, the man admitted honestly. Well, I give myself to you, and that's enough. We're not playing in love, but just a night of passion. Everything is fair. Then the front door slammed. In the room left a delicate aroma of expensive perfume and a lonely man who had countless victories over the female sex. Soon the divorce proceeding of the Jones couple began to be actively discussed at the firm. Woody was one of the first to hear of the mistress' separation from her husband, and it was reported quickly and with all the details. Banker, not he, did not want to see Mason, because he immediately imagined how the man owned his Melanie for so many years and was happy. Envy and jealousy slammed into his soul at the mere thought of it. So he opened his email and wrote his former buddy a letter asking him to get out of the office, and he attached a screenshot of the transfer to his account. 500 grand. Wasn't that enough to disappear from their lives forever? Green was surprised when a few hours later, the letter of resignation arrived on his desk. He gladly signed it, thought he hadn't expected his rival to get up so quickly. Now all his thoughts were focused on winning Melanie. But getting close to her wasn't easy. She teased Woody, allowing him to approach, or reminding elusive. He had never encountered a woman like her before. Melanie was a revelation to him. Smart, educated, perfectly able to express her thoughts, and able to reason almost on any topic. She was financially independent, had a small but very profitable modeling agency in Los Angeles. For several days, he had been actively attacking her with calls to the office. She will pick up the phone, and from there, she will hear, "I'm busy right now. Goodbye, Mr. Green." Woody will then carpool to the office every morning. "I hope you have a minute," he will cheerfully address her. Holding back her range, Melanie sighed. "Follow me." She led him into her office. "What are you doing here? Why are you so compromising me in front of the staff? I'll be honest. I won't leave you until you agree to spend time with me. You're unbearable. Why don't you mind your own business?" The man looked at her and sighed firmly. In a certain sense, that's what I'm doing. He pulled a pile of tickets out of his pocket. "Look, I bought tickets to the theater, to an opera, to a movie, to an art gallery. Pick one, please. They can be returned to the box office." The woman said with irritation, "Are you always this stubborn? Only when you're in love." "All right." Melanie took all tickets from him. "Thank you," she said in a conciliatory tone. "I'll give them to my employees." Green smiled. "That's great. I hope they will like it. Then you can have dinner with me." "No, I won't." "Please, please." "Okay, but that's wonderful." The man rejoiced. That same evening, he was waiting for her with a gorgeous bouquet of roses at the entrance of the trading house. They went to a fancy restaurant. They dined and talked until midnight. They went out deep into the night. There was a strong wind swaying the trees. The moon disk shimmered in the clear sky. It's hard to say who stepped forward first, but a moment later, Woody had Melanie in his arms. They kissed. It seems to him that the world went dark. Rapture engulfed the man and carried him into a world of sensual love. In the morning, the banker was awakened by the smell of freshly brewed coffee and roasting ham. "You're making me breakfast. "You're making me breakfast. You could hire any cook in town," marveled the man. "Are you really so rich that you will spend money on a cook?" "Yes, I have millions in my account." "I don't believe that." "It's true." "Well, that's your business." The young woman smiled. Woody approached Melanie and untied the belt of her robe. "I want to legalize our relationship. It's important for me to know that you are mine forever." He pulled away from her body for a moment. "Is that a proposal?" she asked. Crane pulled the woman even tighter against her chest. Her gaze was curious. "Your voice lacks confidence." "Trust me." "Will you marry me?" "I will." The wedding took place in the luxurious hall of the famous hotel. The crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling reflected the dazzling light into a myriad of rays shining with diamond brilliance. Dozens of tables were set for 200 people. Expensive tablecloth, china, silver elegant glasses. A top orchestra played on the bandstand of the dance hall, ready to please the dancers till morning. Waiters, doormen, security guards like ants circled around the guests. The evening was unforgettable. Melanie held her head high and looked at her guests with the enigmatic half smile of a Gioconda. Woody Green was bursting with pride. He was glowing with happiness. Next to him was his dream. Today she was unrivaled in audience. In a white lush dress with open shoulders and scattered on them golden curls, the woman was delightful. It was impossible to look away from her. She began to live with her husband in a huge mansion, built in the style of antiquity, outside the city. The house with majestic columns and wide driveway. Around the house was an extensive park with exotic and traditional trees and flowers. The interior decorations was stunning, and its opulence. The front hall was lined with stone slabs, and the walls were finished with natural woods. Massive lanterns hung from the ceiling in piers, and there were marble-top tables with metal legs and satin upholstered chains in various places. The huge dining room could accommodate 100 guests at once. Next to it there was a smoking room, billiard room, tennis room, swimming pool. On the second floor there were 6 bedrooms, each with a fireplace in its own bedroom. The third floor was given to the servants' quarters. It had been several years since they'd been married, and the intimate sense of life only pleased Woody. He certainly looked at other women and noticed their beauty, but he was drawn only to the marital bed. During his life, he'd experienced the joy of carnal pleasures in abundance and realized that his wife was no equal in this. So he didn't want to trade her for something simpler. Melanie was a good housekeeper. Whatever she did, Green was so delighted. He didn't know if she loved him or not. He just believed it. He wanted this amazing beauty to be with him for the rest of his life. It was good. He couldn't believe it. And then Woody's life changed. That day, Melanie said in a simple, businesslike way, "Darling, I know you're not going like this, but I'm preparing for a fashion show in Australia, and it's time for Sydney. It's a small event, but it's very important. I'm going to have to fly down there and sort it out." Woody's face became disgruntled. "How long will you have to be there?" "No more than 2 days at most. You will notice how fast the time flies by. Promise to come back as soon as possible." He came up behind her, hugged her toughly, tilted her head, and kissed her gently on the neck. "I promise." Melanie left for the airport. Woody was dying to call her and ask her to stay, even if it was just for a day. even for a minute. No, that's pure nonsense. Going crazy because of a horrible premonition? What's nonsense? But his words were not vain. In a couple of days, all the newspapers in Los Angeles were full of headlines about the missing businessman's wife in the city. And Woody Crane was just going crazy with his substance. He couldn't reach her, and every day brought him closer to the imminent abyss. The tension in which Crane lived was waiting on the man. To somehow relieve it, he drank alcohol, at first in glasses and in the evenings, and after a month, in liters during the day. Woody was tired of the hopelessness. He couldn't live a minute without Melanie, and now it was 3 months. The man just tortured himself, unable to resist his unhappiness, and one day his body was discovered by a maid, breathless, in his own pool. Now headlines in the news media read, "Who gets Woody Crane's fortune? He's dead and his wife is still missing." Of course it's for me, Melanie thought with satisfaction, tossing one of the papers aside carelessly. She looked out of the window. How did he manage to create such a thing in a few years? She thought of Mason with admiration. 2 horse farms. In front of her, as far as the eye could see, endless board fences, paddocks, riding areas, and windswept grass stretching as far as the eye could see. It takes a lot of intuition to pick a promising vector of development for your own business. She, wrapped in a warm shawl, came out of a small cozy mansion. It stood among a green sea of vegetation, fields, and forests. The woman headed for the racetrack and stood for a few minutes, admiring how Manson handled the burly stallion. There he was, her favorite and only one. He really did look like an ancient god. The right, sharply defined profile, the fine feature of his face, the sense of immense strength, the straight, white teeth on his tanned face, the blonde hair, the green-yellow eyes. The woman could see his lean muscles playing beneath the thin fabric of his linen shirt. Everything inside her trembled, and the sensation made her lower body numb. She wanted to get into the arms of this amazing handsome man and feel the bliss of intimacy with him again. After a while, he approached, gently put his arm around her shoulders, and lightly touched her plump lips with a kiss. "We have finally done it," he said solemnly, "just like we want to." Melanie laughed. How would he have missed? Mason's tiger eyes gleamed victoriously. He shouldn't have played our games with them. Punish himself. His finances will be ours now. Yes, as soon as you and I are married. Evening was falling upon the land. The first stars appeared in the sky, hugging each other softly. The lovers walked toward their home.